Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Weekly Spark. My dog's going to start barking because I'm talking and there's nobody in the room but her. So for this last page for September, the theme is florals. And, here you see Halloween Horror Nights. That definitely doesn't sound very floral. We recently went on a little trip, a little getaway. It was my birthday week. We just decided that we were going to do a little escape. So what I think I'm going to do this week is actually a combo of travel journaling and some florals. Because we went to Universal Studios in Orlando, I was particularly noticing all of the different plants and flora and foliage that is so different than what I have here in Delaware. So I have many different things from the, ephemera, like I collect when I travel. So my first layer is going to be a collage of that. And then I want to print out some images of, table's shaking, that's the dog. I want to print out some images of some of the leaves and kind of do an overlay with some of the leaf images over top of the collage. So this is going to be two parts, but let me start this process and, I'll speed it up because collage is collage. So I have some things on this page that are really thick. You saw that I tried to tear down the coaster from Margaritaville. We went there because it was in City Walk, but also, wanted to have a margarita in honor of Jimmy Buffett's passing. And they do make a perfect margarita there. Then this swizzle stick, the Aventura Hotel is shaped like this. And so you can see it in their logo, but also, I mean, I just kind of thought that was fun. This is the last page in this little book that I've traveled with a lot. So I'm not concerned about adding things that are going to make it not close, because it's going to be on the shelf after this. So one of my absolute best friends drove across the state of Florida to surprise me, and we had lunch, the four of us, and, you know, spouses included, and celebrated my birthday, and I hadn't seen her in years, so that was absolutely fabulous. We've got some things from Horror Nights. We've got the map of the hotel. We flew a Velo Airlines, which is a budget airline, and it flies out of Wilmington, Delaware, which I think is the only airline to fly out of Wilmington, Delaware. It is a tiny airport with one gate and one security screening, and no real luggage carousel. They just toss them in from the carts. You've got to climb up to the airplane, you know, there's no jet bridge, right? They wheel up the stairs. So wicked fun. It was extremely budget, but it felt deluxe because there was none of the confusion and crowding and delays that happen so often at a big airport. So yeah, that I'm going to let settle. This is not taped down yet, but then I will come back in part 2 and do my leaf overlay. I was trying to use these light colors wherever I could and leave some space of the page, because I'm going to probably work in Tombow markers and they're not going to really show up much over these darker tones. But that's okay, because it's still part of my plan and I'm still having fun with the process. So I will be right back to do part 2 with some leaves. All right, we're back for part 2. So here's some of the images. Here's some of the plants that really struck me. I love a fern always. I love the structure. I love the wavy leaves. I love on the underside how you've got the spots of the seeds. I don't know the name of this plant, but I even have 2 pictures of it because some were so red and then so yellow. This just really struck me as stunning. I love this little guy with this structure where the leaves are all coming up out of the very center. And of course, this purple flower. So not a lot of foliage because it was vacation and I wasn't really focused on this all the time, but I can't help but notice beautiful organic things all the time. So it's nice that there are some purples in here. The purple flower might work well over there, but I'm just going to set that up where I can see it. And I'm just going to really freeform draw some leaves. I'm actually going to draw them in this Pentel brush pen. And the reason I like that so much is because it really varies the pressure. I mean, all brush pens do, but this is a permanent black ink. It keeps me loose. It keeps me from being too uptight about if I'm drawing something really specifically, so it keeps me kind of in the flow of things. So I like that. It keeps me loose, keeps me a little more spontaneous. have the full set of Tombow markers. That was a splurge one Christmas. And so I'm going to tilt the camera back to my sketchbook, but just wanted to warn you that I do have a large variety of colors to choose from. The reason I wanted to use these instead of maybe something like Posca pens is because they are transparent. And that way my source material, my collage material, my ephemera from the travel is still going to show through. You can still see the letters even though they're through this dark green of those leaves. Like that pink was a little too hot of a pink for what I wanted for the leaf on this plant. That's a little bit too red, but that might be the winner. Yeah, that's too purple. Whoa. So because these are relatively new to me, I don't really have each one of them kind of memorized. Actually, I like that one. And I am trying to keep my hand off of the paper while I'm working because I know there's going to be some transfer and I just don't want to smear everything. On this slick paper of the brochure, it will dry eventually, but you know, it hasn't yet. So it is pretty subtle where it's over top of some of the maps. And it's going to be a bit chaotic across the page. But I like having some kind of mark of the hand on the page. I like there being something that I did so it's not all straight collage. I like showing that I was actively involved in the page. I mean, of course, you are if you're collaging. But I think that it makes it a bit more personal when you're making your own marks, writing your own words, drawing something in. Definitely going to take a while to dry on this boarding pass. It's a very slick printout. I may have to put a little piece of wax paper in between to prevent, you know, smearing. Just gonna spin that around so I can reach it without my hand across everything. So the offerings for Weekly Spark this month in September were very different than what I have been doing. And honestly, it was a struggle to have one every week. This is the first time I've missed one. Earlier in this month, I missed one. And I think that's life, and I think that's being a full-time artist and having shows and having obligations and trying to keep up with everything. And I hope to be back on a more normal kind of routine for October. I definitely have some plans, but I also have quite a few shows. And so, that's the dilemma, trying to get everything balanced out between life, work, the universe, and everything. So here is just clearing up some of the clutter so you can see this page. Here it is. I'm going to put that down there. I might actually sew it in with something because, like I said, this is the last page in the book, and I don't mind if it gets a little bulky. But this really commemorates this trip for me. One last thing that I want to do is, this is a random date in the middle of the time that we were there. Great. It's such a simple thing, and I really love it in a journal page, or especially an art journal page. So I'm going to call this one done. This is a little bit of a travel journal and a little additional foliage from that trip. As always, if you like this channel, please go ahead and hit the bell for notifications or subscribe, and I will see you again on Wednesdays for the next episode of Weekly Spark. Thanks for tuning in.